The rain pounded the streets of Arlington, Virginia, as five shadows slunk through the twilight, their laughter sharp and cruel, cutting through the solemn silence of the night. At the heart of Arlington National Cemetery, where heroes rest and honor stands eternal, a lone tom guard stood sentinel at the tomb of the unknown soldier. His name was Sergeant Daniel Harper, a man forged in discipline, his eyes steady as steel, his heart bound to a duty few could fathom. The rain soaked his pristine uniform, but he didn't flinch. He was a statue of resolve, pacing his 21 steps with precision that defied the storm. Little did he know, 5 reckless souls were about to test the unbreakable, and in just 60 seconds, their world would shatter. This is a story of arrogance meeting honor, and it's one you won't forget. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button to join us for more gripping tales of courage and consequence. It was just after 7:00 p.m., the dinner hour for most families in Arlington. The cemetery was closed to visitors, the gates locked, the air heavy with the weight of sacrifice. Families nearby sat around tables, sharing stories of their day, while Daniel Harper stood alone, his M14 rifle resting on his shoulder, his boots striking the mat with metronomic precision. The tom guard's duty was sacred, to protect the memory of the unknown, to honor those who gave everything. Daniel had been a sentinel for 3 years, a role that demanded perfection, physically, mentally, and spiritually. His broad shoulders carried not just the rifle but the weight of history. His face, chiseled and unyielding, hid a story of loss of brother Michael, who never came home from Afghanistan, a promise to serve in his place etched into Daniel's soul. Every step he took was a tribute. Every glance at the tomb a silent conversation with the brother he'd lost. The rain didn't bother him. It was nothing compared to the storms he'd weathered within. Across town, at a dimly lit diner, 5 college students huddled in a booth, their plates of half-eaten burgers and fries pushed aside. They called themselves the Pack, a group of self-proclaimed rebels who thrived on chaos. Leading them was Jake Ramsey, a 20-year-old with a smirk that could curdle milk and a rap sheet of petty crimes. His crew, Tyler, Mia, Ethan, and Chloe, followed his every word, their loyalty fueled by boredom and bravado. They were the kind of kids who'd deface a statue just to post it online, chasing clout with no regard for consequence. Tonight, Jake had a plan, one he pitched over the clatter of dishes and the hum of the jukebox. "The Tom," he said, his voice low, eyes glinting with mischief. "We sneak in, mess with the guard, film it. It'll go viral." The others laughed, nervous but eager, their phones already out, ready to capture the stunt that would make them legends. Jake leaned back, his leather jacket creaking, and spun the story of how they'd be the ones to break the robot soldier. Mia, the group's social media guru, was already typing hashtags FumTom Takedown Pilepic Prank. Tyler, the muscle, cracked his knuckles imagining the guard's shock. Ethan, quieter, shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Chloe, the wild card, suggested spray paint for extra flair. None of them grasped the sanctity of the place they were about to defile. The idea had sparked earlier that day, born from a mix of arrogance and ignorance. Jake had seen a documentary about the tomb of the unknown soldier, mocking the robotic guards who stood watch in all weather, never breaking, never speaking. To him, it was a challenge, a chance to prove he could rattle the unrattleable. Tyler, eager to impress, boasted he'd make the guard flinch. Mia saw dollar signs in viral views. Ethan, the reluctant follower, felt a pang of guilt but was too weak to dissent. Chloe, always chasing the next thrill, thought defacing a national monument sounded edgy. They didn't care about the tomb's meaning. The unidentified soldiers, the families left wondering, the sacrifices it enshrined. To them, it was just a stage for their performance, a backdrop for their fleeting fame. As they planned, the diner's neon lights buzzed overhead, casting their faces in a sickly glow, their laughter drowning out the faint voice of conscience. As the clock neared 8:00 p.m., the rain thickened, cloaking Arlington in a gray veil. The Pack slipped through a gap in the cemetery's perimeter fence, their sneakers squelching in the mud. Jake led the way, a crowbar in one hand, a phone in the other, live streaming to their small but growing audience. "Yo, we're about to own this place," he whispered to the camera, his breath visible in the cold. The tomb loomed ahead, its white marble glowing faintly under the floodlights. Daniel Harper was there mid-pace, his silhouette a stark contrast against the storm. The rain didn't faze him, he'd stood through worse. Blizzards, hurricanes, grief. His 21 steps were a rhythm of reverence, each turn a testament to his oath. His mind was a fortress, but tonight it flickered with a memory Michael's last letter, promising they'd fish the Potomac together when he returned. That promise unfulfilled was why Daniel stood here now, guarding the unknown, ensuring no soldier was forgotten. The pack crept closer, hiding behind a row of headstones, their silhouettes blending with the shadows of the fallen. Jake's plan was simple: rush the tom, shout insults, maybe tag it with paint, and bolt before security arrived. They didn't know the cemetery was monitored by cameras, or that Daniel's training included handling disruptions with lethal precision if needed. To them, he was just a toy soldier, a prop for their prank. Mia giggled nervously, her phone recording, her follower count ticking up. Tyler flexed, ready to charge. Ethan's eyes darted, his conscience screaming, but Jakey's glare silenced him. Chloe clutched a can of spray paint, her hands trembling with adrenaline. "Let's do this," Jake hissed, and they broke from cover, sprinting toward the tome, their laughter a jagged wound in the night's reverence. Daniel heard them before he saw them. Their clumsy footsteps, their stifled laughter. His training kicked in, senses razor sharp. He didn't break stride, didn't turn his head, but his peripheral vision caught their approach. 5 figures, moving fast, their voices mocking. "Hey, soldier boy!" Jake yelled, his voice dripping with scorn. "Bet you can't move!" Tyler chucked a soda can, aiming for Daniel's head. It missed, clattering against the marble, the sound echoing like a gunshot. Maya's camera zoomed in, her followers spiking by the second. Chloe shook her spray can, the rattle loud in the quiet. Ethan hung back, his heart pounding, knowing this was wrong but too weak to stop it. The rain seemed to hold its breath, the cemetery watching, the graves bearing witness to the audacity unfolding. Daniel's mind raced, but his body stayed disciplined. The Sentinel's code was clear: maintain composure, protect the tom, de-escalate if possible. He completed his 21 steps, pivoted, and faced them, his eyes locking onto Jake's. The rain streaked down his face, but his gaze was fire. "This is a place of honor," he said, his voice low, steady, cutting through the storm like a blade. "Leave, now." The words weren't a request, they were a command, carrying the weight of every soldier buried beneath the soil. Jake faltered, his smirk fading, but his ego pushed him forward. "Or what statue?" he taunted, stepping closer, crowbar raised. The others hesitated, sensing the shift, but Jake's bravado was a leash, pulling them toward disaster. Daniel's hand tightened on his rifle, not to use it, but as a reminder of the line he'd sworn to defend. What happened next took exactly 60 seconds, but it felt like an eternity. Daniel's training as a sentinel included hand-to-hand combat honed to perfection. He didn't need the rifle, his body was the weapon. As Jake swung the crowbar, Daniel sidestepped with inhuman precision, disarming him in one fluid motion. The crowbar hit the ground with a clang, swallowed by the mud. Tyler charged, fists raised, but Daniel's elbow met his jaw, dropping him instantly. Mia screamed, her phone falling into the mud, the live stream cutting out as her followers watched the chaos unfold. Chloe froze, the spray can slipping from her hands, rolling toward a headstone. Ethan bolted, abandoning his friends, his shame outrunning his fear. In a blur of disciplined fury, Daniel subdued Jake and Tyler, pinning them face down in the wet grass, their wrists twisted just enough to make resistance futile. The rain washed their defiance away, leaving only whimpers. Security arrived seconds later, alerted by the cameras, their flashlights cutting through the storm. The pack was cuffed, their bravado replaced by sobs and excuses. Jake's defiance crumbled as he realized the livestream had captured everything. Not their triumph, but their humiliation. Daniel stood tall, rain dripping from his cap, his uniform still flawless despite the chaos. He resumed his march, his 21 steps unbroken, as if nothing had happened. The tom stood untouched, its dignity intact, a silent witness to the clash of arrogance and honor. But the story didn't end there. The video, recovered from Maya's phone, went viral. Not for the reasons the pack had hoped. Shared across platforms, it showed Daniel's restraint, his unwavering commitment, and the bullies' swift downfall. Comments poured in, praising the Tom Guard's discipline, condemning the disrespect. Veterans, families of the fallen, and everyday Americans rallied behind Daniel, their words a chorus of gratitude. The pack faced charges, trespassing, vandalism, assault. Jake's dreams of internet fame turned to infamy, his face plastered across news outlets as a cautionary tale. Tyler's bravado landed him a broken nose in a court date. Mia lost her social media accounts, her followers turning on her. Chloe and Ethan, though less involved, couldn't escape the shame, their names tied to the stunt forever. In the days that followed, the incident became more than a news story. It became a reckoning. Arlington's community gathered, not just to condemn the pack, but to honor the Tom anew. Veterans visited, leaving flowers and salutes, their eyes wet with pride and pain. Daniel's name wasn't widely known. He didn't seek fame. But those who served with him saw the incident as a testament to the Sentinel's creed. At the cemetery, whispers of the event spread among the groundskeepers, the visitors, the soldiers who stood the same watch. Daniel's commanding officer called him in, not to reprimand, but to commend. "You didn't just protect the Tom," he said, his voice gruff with emotion. "You protected what it stands for." Daniel nodded, his jaw tight, thinking of Michael, of the unknown soldiers, of the families who'd never know where their loved ones lay. The viral video brought attention, but it also brought scrutiny. Some questioned why Daniel hadn't used more force, others marveled at his restraint. Online debates raged, but Daniel stayed silent, letting his actions speak. He returned to his post each night, the rain or shine irrelevant, his steps a metronome of duty. The pack's lives unraveled. Jake expelled from college, Tyler facing community service, Mia shunned by her peers, Chloe and Ethan haunted by their complicity. Yet for Daniel, the incident was a fleeting moment in a lifelong mission. He stood watch, the Tom's marble glowing under the stars, a beacon of sacrifice. The nation watched, learned, and remembered some places are sacred, some duties unyielding, and some lines when crossed demand a price. For Daniel, life continued as it always had: 21 steps, 21 seconds, repeat. But those who knew him saw a flicker of pride in his eyes, not for himself, but for the Tom, for the unknown soldiers he guarded. He thought of his brother, lost in a desert far away, and felt the weight of his promise renewed. The incident became a legend in Arlington, a story whispered at dinner tables, a reminder that honor endures where arrogance falls. As the rain cleared and the stars broke through the clouds that night, Daniel stood watch, alone but never lonely. The Tom was more than marble. It was a heartbeat, a legacy, a vow, and in 60 seconds, 5 bullies learned what happens when you challenge the unbreakable. So, what did you think of this story? From which part of the country are you watching this video? Drop a comment below and let us know. Your thoughts keep these stories alive.